Angels general manager Perry Minasian has received a lot of criticism during his tenure as Angels GM, and rightly so. But there are two things that he's done well, and it has shaped this team's present and will shape this team's future.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day, and the #1 sports podcast network in all the land.
Hey, we appreciate you being here for this episode of Locked On Angels, where it's your team every day. You've got the Frisch brothers here with you, a.k.a. the Super Halo Bros. My name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
Hey, we're here 3 times a week talking Angels baseball, but we'll be back to 5 days a week on our normal schedule pretty soon. In fact, it's coming up here quick at the beginning of February. So we're talking about your favorite team. We hope that you leave here a smarter fan, a more informed baseball fan, and just a better Angels fan overall. And we hope that the conversation is helpful and beneficial to you. Today on the show, we're talking about the good parts of Perry Minasian's resume. We'll discuss 2 areas where he's been pretty good. And we've been critical, especially in this last year. Then we're going to ask what the future should hold for the Halos GM. But let's start by resetting the conversation, Mike.
Yeah, Perry Minasian, he deserves the criticism that he receives as the general manager of the Angels because of a lot of reasons. One specifically.
Do I have to tell you about time, money, value? Is this something I need to educate you on, Michael?
Don't be so upset. Take a soak, right? His record as general manager is one of the reasons why he deserves the criticism, because it's not too good. The team had its best season with Perry as general manager in 2021. They won 77 games that year. Since then, the best season was in 22 and 23. They won 73 games under Perry's leadership, John. 358 wins and 452 losses. Not
so crazy.
Too good.
Not too good. That's crazy to me because that 21 team on paper, I mean, there was a period of time where it was Shohei's breakout year. He had his MVP season, right? Yeah. But that team on paper, like they won the most games out of any season so far. Like, that's insane to me that version of the team was, quote unquote, the best version of the team. Wow.
Now, when Perry was asked about how he would assess his performance over the years, especially this last season, he's kind of evaded that answer. And Sam Blum of The Athletic asked him back in October about, like, hey, how would you evaluate yourself? And his response was, I'm not worried about that being the past performance of the team. He said, I'm worried about going forward, where we are at this point in time, making the team better. So lots of reasons to critique Perry Minasian, lots of reasons to criticize Perry Minasian. But today, we are going to talk about 2 areas where John and I believe that Angels fans, they have room to criticize, but maybe not that much room. In fact, I would say that these are the 2 areas out of all that Perry has done. These are the 2 areas where he has performed well. He has been better, right? And there's a lot of areas where he hasn't, but these 2 areas he's done well. And those 2 areas are drafting and international free agent signings. Both of those areas, Perry's done some of his best work, and the team really around him have probably done some of their best work since he arrived 5 years ago.
And here's the reason why this is important. Many of the players Perry has drafted, they've made an immediate impact, right? It's unconventional. It's not the way that things normally go. But you have to remember that the drafting and the international free agency, they just weren't there before Perry Minasian. And so it's something that they've climbed back into. Not always successful, not always great, but better than it was. And I know that that's a pretty low bar, but at the same time, they had to move forward in that area, right?
Yeah, and when you think about the players that were drafted before Perry Minasian got here, there's a lot of players that you just couldn't name. I know that Taylor Ward was a part of that. Joe Adell was a part of that. But it was really few and far between that we saw these players actually come up and do something at the major league level. We've seen that more often because there's a different strategy, for one. But 2, the drafting for the Angels has been much better under Perry Minasian, and so has the international free agent signings. And so, John, let's talk through both areas today, and let's start with the draft and share some of the successes of Perry Minasian's team and Perry Minasian's tenure over the last 5 years, of who they've drafted and the impact that they've made.
Yeah, we have to start with Zach Neto, right? Back in 2022, taken 13th overall in the first round. He's probably the face of the franchise at this point, and he seems to want that, Mike. He seems hungry for that, and I think that that's really important when you talk about Zach Neto. Back-to-back 2020 seasons. He's a guy that the Angels can build around. He's got 4 more years of club control when he becomes a free agent in 2030. Now, remember when he was called up at first, it was because in 2023, the Angels had terrible defense, and so they wanted somebody who could come up and improve that. And he's been the guy at shortstop ever since then. I think that oftentimes in our Angels bubble, where we're constantly dealing with criticism, we're constantly dealing with the disappointment of not having a good offseason, we're constantly dealing with losing records. Zach Neto is a treasure, and it's not a treasure to just us, but the rest of baseball. I mean, he's pretty, like, if you look at pre-draft, like fantasy ranks now, he's one of the top shortstops. He's probably the top of tier 2 behind like Bobby Witt Jr. and Francisco Lindor. So there's a lot of cachet when it comes to Zach Neto. And it's not just Angel fans tooting their own horn. That's a pretty well agreed upon fact that Zach Neto is somebody that people around the league would want on their team.
Completely remember too that when he got called up, my wife and I were on a weekend vacation for our anniversary, and I'm checking social media, and at the same time I'm checking social media, I get a text from John that says Neto, and I responded with, heck yeah. I remember that distinctly. We were sitting outside.
Had to keep it short because you were on vacation.
Yes,
just get it all in one word. Neto.
Sitting outside drinking coffee, and then got some good news. It was great. Now, let's talk about Nolan Schanuel. He was drafted in 2023 at number 11. He played in 21 minor league games before being called up on August 18th, 2023. He's had the highest batting average out of all of the everyday players on this team for the last 2 years. Now, I know that there are fans, everydayers are going to say, well, that's not saying much, but it is good for somebody who is brand new to baseball in the major leagues and didn't play more than 21 games in the minor leagues to be leading this team in batting average. And every year he's improved that batting average around 250 the first year, 264 last season. And John, on defense, looking at his defensive ranks and where he lands, he's been league average at first base, even though he gets a lot of critique over there. He's been league average. And I think that that's helpful for this team because they need a good defense behind ground ball pitchers like a Jack Kahanowitz and a Jose Soriano.
Yeah, he especially is promising just because he's taken those steps forward. And I know the biggest criticism is, well, he's got no power. Well, he did hit double-digit home runs. Now it's not 20. It's in the tens and the teens, right? Mike, does it matter? No.
Yeah.
We hit the 4th most home runs in the league and still came in last place in the AL West. So you need guys who do different things. You've compared him to John Olerud before. I think that's a great comp. And I think since then, so a lot more people have also made that comparison as well. How about Christian Moore, 8th overall pick in 2024, made his MLB debut last season, had a stretch where he had a 698 OPS right before he got hurt, returned from injury, and just put up a 556 on base plus slugging. He was sent down, and then he had a 6-game stretch when he returned with a 1,148 OPS. And it looks to be like he's going to be the starting second baseman this season. However, there has been some talk, even from Perry Minasian, that he could move over to third base, depending on the circumstances. The truth is we haven't seen all of Christian Moore yet. I think there's more to come, no pun intended.
Yeah, and then there's Ben Joyce. Ben Joyce was drafted in 2022 in the 3rd round, debuted in 23, made a statement with his fastball, somebody that the Angels will be relying upon when he's healthy this season and in future seasons. Got the potential of being a really strong closer. Troy Percival type of closer, like throwing hard. It needs to learn it. Obviously, there's a lot of growth and maturing that needs to happen. But Jon, just those 4 picks, those 4 players, they've already made an impact with the Angels. And not included in our conversation is Caden Dana and Tyler Bremner, who just got drafted, and even Ryan Johnson, who was in the bullpen and didn't pitch any in the minor leagues, no innings in the minor leagues to start the season. And he's a grinder, man. He is somebody that I think is going to be gritty and gutty for this team in the future. And so those are just a small glimpse, a little look into who the Angels have drafted and the immediate impact that they have made on this team. So my question to you, Jon, for you to consider for all of our everydayers is, with all that Perry has done wrong, will Angel fans agree that he has drafted right?
I don't think they'll agree that he's drafted right, honestly. I think we're all in a place of despair and depression and in the pit of, in the thrones of our despair, right? Not thrones, throws. Here's the thing. I think that if you look back at these drafts, you can see where the Angels should have gone after a different guy with the guys that were available, rather than like a Nolan Schanuel or a Christian Moore, right? I think that that's a case that you can make. However, I think the issue here is that, and we always say this, in Arte's sandbox, in Arte's playground, in his snow globe, you have to make decisions that don't involve Arte Moreno. And on one hand, I think the scouting and the drafting and the development has improved under Perry Minasian. Finally, because it's been years that the Angels have had anything like that that's been successful, especially international scouting, right? So I think in the areas where Perry Minasian is away from Arte Moreno, he's able to make good decisions often. Not all the time, obviously, but at the same time, it's his good decisions that are resulting in what we like about this team. It's some of the trades that he's made. It's giving chances to guys like Carlos Estevez and turning him into a closer, right? It's bringing up Zach Neto. It's bringing up Nolan Schanuel. Probably really early, really soon for those guys to come up. But at the same time, it's not like you're getting a big free agent shortstop. So what are you going to do? You got to bring up Zach Neto. It's not like you've got a replacement for Jared Walsh. God bless him for all of the issues that he had to deal with and just couldn't do it anymore. You're not getting a big free agent first baseman because Arte won't let you. So you have to bring up Nolan Schanuel. You have to draft for need. And I know that drafting for need is not the strategy that works, but it's what the Angels have to do. And it's what Perry Minasian has to do in order to have some semblance of a team that can go out there and play 9 innings. And when you think about some of the other picks, like you mentioned, Caden Dana, Tyler Bremner, Ryan Johnson, Mike, it's still a lot of wait and see. Yeah. Especially the international free agents. We'll talk about them in a little bit, but it's still a lot of wait and see because these guys are young. And even though some of these guys are right out of college, and we've seen a lot of guys get called up right away, they've also had to show some restraint with some of the young guys that they're excited about and want to, see them develop and whatnot. So all of that to say, I don't think that at the end of the day, everyone's going to feel good about Perry Minasian and what he's done. But I would just point you back to the last 10 years before he got here. The lack of player development, the lack of drafting well, the total gutting of the international free agency market because you blew all your money on Roberto Baldacchini and missed out on the class of free agents that included Juan Soto and Tatis Jr. and Vladdy Jr., right? So it's not a high bar to clear, but it's certainly better than where the Angels have been. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Coming up, what about international free agency? Has Perry helped that area? And then what would his future be with the Halos after this season? We'll talk about all of that coming right up.
Tax season doesn't have to take over your life. I know it's the beginning of the year. You're probably not thinking about that. You're like, April 15th, that's far, far away. Well, it might sneak up on you. So this year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move on with your day. Doesn't that sound great when it comes to taxes? Like, hand things off, take care of this for me. Let me know what kind of return I'm getting. And if I owe anything, don't tell me, right? With TurboTax full service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert, start to finish, without the stress or guesswork, instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms and all that really nasty stuff. You can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person or connect online. They handle everything from your W-2s to self-employed forms. and they work to get you every single deduction that you deserve. And you can upload your documents, go about your day, and then get updates right in the TurboTax app. So download that app. You're going to need it. It's a huge time saver and gives real peace of mind knowing that an expert is handling everything for you. Now, for a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150. That's all in if a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year. So if you didn't do it last year and they didn't file for you, you get $150. That's what they're going to charge you. Great deal for taxes. Just file by February 28th. Got about a month to do that. Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life like watching Angels baseball and engaging with Locked On Angels. Visit turbotax.com/local to book your appointment today.
This is the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network, because of everydayers like you. And when you consider yourself an everydayer, there are ways for you to take it to the next level. Join the Everydayer Club for Locked On Angels for just $5 a month. We're giving you ad-free, uninterrupted audio feeds for each and every episode. You get to be part of the members-only Discord server, which has other everydayers from other shows and other sports too, which has been a lot of fun. The national bonus shows are available to you, exclusive access to the members-only Locked On merch store. And then if you want to add any other Everydayer Club subscriptions, you get 60% off those as well. And then if you want to go all access, you get everything in the $5 tier. But for $15, you get all access episodes of Locked On Angels, one-on-one texting with me, newsletter versions of each day's show, and a 15% discount to the Locked On merch store. So head to lockedonangels.supercast.com and be part of the Everydayer Club.
So every year on January 15th, amateur players who have surpassed the age of 16 years old begin their professional careers by signing with big league clubs. And while the process might change in the coming years, amateur players and big league teams, they tend to have a verbal agreement with players anywhere from 6 months ahead of the signing period to 2 or 3 years ahead. Imagine talking to a 12 and 13-year-old and be like, hey, I'd love for you to come play for our team.
I want to play for you. Sure.
Once you get hair on your chest, you can throw that fastball. Perry Minasian has now had 5 opportunities to sign international free agents during his time as general manager. And John and I believe that this is the second area where he has performed well. So we're going to take a look at who he signed. First, John, give us 4 names of the players that maybe our everydayers would recognize as soon as they hear their name.
Yeah, these will be names that you're familiar with. Of course, Edgar Caro, who is now with the White Sox.
Not can't believe they traded Edgar Caro. He's the world's greatest catcher.
The thing is, though, is that, he was highly rated prospect.
Yeah.
And he's seen some major league playing time. And it's taking some time. Like, he's had his good moments. He's had his bad moments, right?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, that's really what it comes down to. I mean, look, it's a Perry pick that's in the majors, but not on the Angels, right?
Yep,
So
yep.
Are the White Sox doing it wrong? Well, we're probably as good as the White Sox, and they might be lapping us in terms of getting back to the postseason. So there you go. So Edgar Caro is one of those names you might recognize. Jose Fermin, young bullpen arm who came up last year and will certainly be part of what they have going on this year. Nelson Rada, of course, highly touted prospect, center fielder, makes a lot of good contact, elite defense. And then, of course, Denzer Guzmán, who we got to look at the end of 2025. And each of these guys have some notoriety, high potential. Like we mentioned, Caro was traded in the Lucas Giolito deal in 2023. And then, of course, for me and Rada and Guzmán are pieces that might actually have an impact this season for the Angels in 2026.
Yeah, and Caro's value allowed the Angels to make the trade for Giolito, and then also Ronaldo Lopez was a part of that. I get it didn't work out. I understand that, but that's what allowed them to do that. So that's why you have some of these pieces as well. So those are 4 really strong names that the Angels have signed in the international free agent signing period that have done that under Perry Minasian. Now, last Thursday, the Angels signed 14 more players. They had 1 top shortstop, they had 1 top pitcher, and a bunch of 6-figure signees, which indicate that they've got potential great value.
Mm-hmm.
Now, some of the names that were signed, a Dominican shortstop, Yeston Horton. Now, Horton is ranked as the 15th overall international prospect by Baseball America, making him the highest ranked of the 14 players that the Angels signed. He also reportedly received a bonus of $2 million, which accounts for a large portion of the total pot that the Angels had, which was $6.7 million. He's projected as a speedy, glove first middle infielder, young, so that's just a projection. Now, scouting report says he's potentially the best athlete the Angels have signed internationally since Trent DeVoe, and Horton is a plus athlete who plays a high energy game. He's a left-handed hitter. He makes frequent hard contact with minimal swing and miss, with a proven track record against high-end amateur competition. His ability to find the barrel is impressive. Again, this is the scouting report. While he projects to have a above average hit tool and approach, his size, he's 5'10", maybe 5'9". He has limited power projection, but something that we've talked about on this show often, and John's mentioned, is the hit tool is the thing that you want a player to have more than anything else. Power's great, but their hit tool will really give you a projection as to what they will be able to accomplish as they grow up in baseball.
It's our friend Lindsey Crosby from the Locked On Braves postcast. Your power tool is only as good as your hit tool, because if you can't hit, then your power is useless. So there you go. It's funny when you read these scouting reports, because I'm like, oh, that's TBW. That's Taylor Blake Ward. Like the way that he writes these. And what's awesome is that he's doing these scouting reports for Baseball America. So it's just awesome to have a Locked On Angels Hall of Famer, former host Taylor Blake Ward writing these up. Now, the Angels did sign Dominican outfielder Carlos Castillo. He was ranked 49 by Baseball America. He received $1 million. The scouting report on him, Castillo is an offensive upside outfielder who is arguably the best pure hitter the Angels have signed internationally in decades.
Dang.
He's praised for his pro-ready swing, plate mentality, offensive upside matches some of the top position players currently in the organization. He's a high-contact left-handed hitter, puts together competitive plate appearances, and his offense feels very impressive. Though he's limited to gap power at the moment, his swing foundation and ability to make contact should balance out his power output as he matures physically to be a double-digit home run producer. Solid athlete with above-average speed and feel for the outfield, Castillo will start his pro career in center field.
And the Angels also signed Dominican outfielder Anderson Rodriguez. He was the 78th ranked player out of 100. He's the son of Henry Rodriguez. If you remember Henry, he spent 11 years in the majors. He led the league in home runs during spring training one time, just crushed it, and then didn't have a great season. But I remember that spring training distinctly, and because I live in SoCal, and Dodgers and Angels would be on KTLA, and then they'd be on Fox and Channel 13. I distinctly remember him just crushing it in spring training. Again, didn't really translate to the major leagues. Anderson, his son, is 6'2", 200 pounds, powerful left-handed swing, according to Baseball America. They say that he shares similar hit tools as his father. He's power threat corner, again, 6'2", paired with advanced rotational force. I love that. He creates from the left side. It gives him some notable power projection. He's got a natural violence in his swing, but there's a feel for contact, which makes him an offensive threat long-term. Defensively, he fits the corner of the outfield and could eventually be a left fielder. And some are saying a first baseman, which again is kind of what his dad did when he played Major League Baseball.
Finally, the highest rated pitcher they signed was the 94th international free agent prospect, Dominican right-hander Kendry Fania. I'm wondering if his name will get changed to Kendrys eventually, but there you go. He's an athletic right-hander with a clean and repeatable delivery. You like to hear that. Fills the zone with a 3-pitch mix, gives him all the tools of a rotation project. Physical projection may not only add more velocity and power to his arsenal. These kids, they got to grow up. They got to mature. They got to put on put some meat on their bones, right? The thing is that he finishes well, above average command, and that gives him a lot of credence for his future in the starting rotation. Now, I did like this tweet from our friend Jared Timms over at Talkin' Halos, and I agree. He said, the international signings have been the best part of the Angels farm system now for the past 3 or 4 years. I agree with that. And when you look up and down the farm system, it is the international free agent signings that are doing a lot of the heavy lifting. But again, they're young
Yeah.
and they're going to take time
Yeah.
to get up here. Mike, is Perry Minasian even going to be around to see the fruit of his scouting labor, I guess you could say, with these international free agents? Is he going to get credit for this when the time comes?
As far as credit, no, if he's not around, because I mean, we don't give Billy Epler credit for like Taylor Ward or Joe Adell, or
Right.
like we don't even say the name Billy Epler unless we are talking about previous GMs and we're maybe talking about how terrible it was, right?
Yeah.
Or we don't say Jerry DiPoto. We don't say those names unless we are gritting our teeth. And so I don't think that Perry is going to get the credit if he's not around. If he is around, then I think that people will go, okay, that happened under his leadership and that really benefited the team. I think there are some names that are really good names that we need to pay attention to, like Gabriel Davalillo. He's somebody that's a catcher that is moving up the ranks pretty high. He's already in like the top 10 in a lot of rankings. I think Jared Timms puts him at like number 4, number 5 in his own personal ranking. And Jared's pretty smart when it comes to these minor league guys and these young guys. And so I think that what we'll find with Perry Minasian is that some of these guys will hit, but I don't know if Perry will be around when they hit. That's all going to be determined, I think, by the record of the Angels. Now, we'll talk about his future in just a moment, but I think that that is going to be something that needs to be considered for Perry Minasian's future.
So we talk about the draft. We talk about Perry's international signings. Mike, does this give Angel fans any reason to consider whether Perry Minasian should get an extension with the Angels? And if he doesn't deserve one at this point, what would it take for Angel fans to be on board with what Perry Minasian has done? Because I think what happens is we get two versions of Perry Minasian. We get the persnickety Perry, who's, fighting off the media, not giving clear answers. That doesn't sit well with Angel fans, and it's not a good look. The optics are not good. This is not a team that has had any success in the last 10 years. And so, like you said the other day, where they take this approach of like, well, how dare you ask me this question?
Yeah.
That's not a good look. And it didn't used to be that way with Perry Minasian. He was elusive, but you could also tell it was the company line. It was, hey, we're going to try to be competitive and we're going to upgrade this team the best way we can. Well, after 5 years of that becomes a tired talking point.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that what he has done well gets conflated with the things that are annoying about this organization and by extension, ownership and Perry Minasian. So I don't know that there's ever going to be a convincing argument to say that Perry Minasian deserves an extension or that Angel fans would want him to be part of this organization. In my opinion, I would like to clean house. And if that means new ownership steps in at some point, I wouldn't want any holdovers, Mike.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want any holdovers from this front office to be part of what they have going on. I would like to see ownership hire a president of baseball operations who hires a GM, who hires a scouting team, right? And maybe you do keep the scouts that you have because they seem to be doing a fairly decent job. But at the end of the day, I just don't know that Perry Minasian will earn an extension. And I don't think that you could convince most Angel fans that he deserves one. But tell me your thoughts on that.
He earns an extension if he wins, if the team wins. If the team gets to the playoffs, then I think that they have to consider like, okay, well, these are Perry's players. He's been here for 5 years and he's filled this team with these players. So if he wins, then I think that Angel fans will ease back on the gas pedal of get rid of him, and let's clean house.
Yeah.
I even think you and I would be in that category too. If we make the playoffs, then there's a consideration of like, okay,
winning solves everything.
Definitely. I think that Perry's legacy will be, dude, you did, out of all the things you didn't do well, you did get really good players in the draft and you did sign really good players in the international free agency, but it was never enough. It was never enough. You did almost enough, but it was never enough. Because,
but whose fault is that though? Right.
And we know that it's Arte's fault.
Yeah.
We know that that's the case. But with the draft and with international free agent signings, you have to hit on every single one.
Yeah.
You have to get every single one right. Now, Perry's, win-loss in that is better than I think Epler and better than DiPoto and better than some of the previous guys. But you have to get every single one of those right. Yes, Arte is always a factor in this, but you can't fire the owner. He's not going to fire himself. And so this always comes back to Perry Minasian. And the reality is that his legacy will be, he drafted some players that hit immediately. Now the strategy, you could discuss if that was a good strategy or not, or did they really develop them?
Did they really need to draft all pitchers in his very first draft?
Yeah,
right?
But as we pointed out in the show, he's hit more often than not than the previous general managers. So that's where I think he's won. Same thing with international signing. He's somebody that has a lot of guys that have high potential, and we might see some of those guys put like Nelson Rada and Denzer Guzmán. We might see them this year. But I think that's going to be his legacy. He never won. He filled this team and the roster with young players with high potential, but it was never enough to get us over the hump.
There was never a pipeline of young players on the way who were any good, especially in the years that we needed it. We needed some good young players to fill in the gaps for the years that we had Andrelton Simmons and Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani and Albert Pujols and Justin Upton, right? Like, we needed young players to be able to fill those gaps, and they just didn't have them. And the ones that they did put in there weren't too fantastic, or they kind of, shined brightly for a little bit and then burnt out. I was joking with our nephew Tyler about Parker Bridwell the other day, right?
Yeah.
Like, what did he go 9-2 that year?
It was great.
Yeah, and then it just flamed out after that. And so there just wasn't enough consistency. There's not a pipeline. There hasn't been a pipeline. And now I think the problem with the Angels right now is that the pipeline is there, but there's 50 million feet of pipeline between the lower levels of the organization and the major league level. It's just a lot of young guys with a lot of potential who just aren't close at this point, and they aren't able to help this version of the team. Will that change in the next 3 to 5 years? Well, yeah, we'll probably see Nelson Rada, more Denzer Guzmán, all that kind of stuff. But it's just a matter of time before some of these guys that we get excited about in international free agency and the draft make their impact in Major League Baseball.
The one thing that I would say in Perry Minasian's corner is right now, he's the perfect general manager for what Arte wants to do.
Yeah.
And so to bring anybody else in, that general manager is going to go, no, I need to spin. I want to do this. I want to do that. Because you get some of those veteran general managers in here and they're going to go, here's how you build this team. Here's what you do. They're going to have a process and a strategy. So if Perry Minasian is not the guy, then they're going to bring in a guy who is like Perry Minasian, no experience, coming in kind of fresh, maybe pulling him from an organization where that organization was successful, but it's going to be something similar to what we've had in the last 5 years. And there's no indication at this point that Arte's going to change his ways. There's no indication that he's going to have a different philosophy. The indication is that the new guy, whoever they do bring in, if that's a change that is made, is going to have to work in Arte's snow globe or Arte's sandbox. He's going to have to make the Josh Lowe type of deals and the Grayson Rodriguez type of deals. And that's where the frustration really lies. So we know that that's Arte at the top. So if we're really frustrated with Perry, could another general manager do better than Perry Minasian in this role with the limitations? That remains to be seen.
Yeah. Time to sell, Arte. That's the best thing that you could do in 2026. Thank you very much.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Join the Everydayer Club and get Locked On Angels with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and so much more. $5 a month, or go all access for $15 a month, and you're going to get one-on-one text access with my brother John, all access episodes, an exclusive newsletter, and a discount in our Locked On merch store. Visit lockedonangels.supercast.com or click the link in the show notes.
Hey, be sure you give us a follow on Twitter at Locked On Angels and at Super Halo Bros on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Mike, I'm excited for Friday's discussion. What do we got on deck?
Yeah, it feels like a lockout's coming, right? Feels like after the CBA expires December 1st of this year, that a lockout is coming. That seems to be the vibes. The players and owners are negotiating all of that. The question we're going to wrestle with is what needs to be in the CBA that would benefit the Angels? Like, what would be a great CBA that would force Arte to do what we want Arte to do?
Right.
And what would be a great CBA that wouldn't allow Arte to continue to do what he's doing? We're going to talk about that on Friday on Locked On Angels.
All right, looking forward to that conversation, and we hope you'll come back and join us for that. Until then, my name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
Thanks for being here with us, everybody. For all you sickos who love this team and the everydayers who love to watch and listen, we'll see you back here on Friday.
What's with my voice? Am I going through puberty again? Good grief. I'm 40, almost 46.
Are you signing with the team, an international free agent?